It has been said that the ancient Egyptians invented candy by combining fruits and nuts with honey. But what does candy have to do with designing a learning game? Grab a piece of your favorite sugary snack and join me in this episode of the Unofficial, Unauthorized History of Learning Games, and we'll discover the answer together. Candy is certainly a delicious treat, and kids all over the world love candy. But did you know that because of a pandemic, the child's game Candyland was invented? That's right, Candyland is a direct result of a reaction to the devastating 1940s polio pandemic in the United States. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, polio was a threat to the population of the U.S. Now, polio is a devastating disease. The virus strikes suddenly, targeting the nerve cells in the spinal cord. This in turn causes those that are infected to lose control over all of their muscles. The disease strikes both adults and children, and many children needed help breathing. Some were even placed into what was called the iron lung, and others had to wear braces to support their muscles. Polio is a disease of immobility. In fact, between 1948 and 1955, many people avoided crowds and public gatherings over the concern about contracting the polio virus. Some parents wouldn't even let their children play with friends for fear they would catch this dreaded disease. Against this backdrop, Candyland was born. Candyland was a fanciful and easy-to-understand diversion where players advanced their game pieces through a candy-laden landscape based on a color system where no reading at all was required. Now, you might think Candyland isn't a learning game, but here at the Unofficial, Unauthorized History of Learning Games, we might argue that technically you might be correct, but Candyland certainly contains lessons that learning game designers can apply to their own design of games. The first Candyland lesson is that you need to have a purposeful design. Candyland was built from the ground up to specifically evoke the emotion of joy and to elicit laughter from children who were ill. And that mission, I would say, by Candyland was definitely accomplished. While convalescing in the polio wing of a San Diego hospital in 1948, a retired school teacher named Eleanor Abbott was inspired to create a board game that would provide a temporary escape from the dull, sterile, and immobile hospital environment many of the polio patients, including her, found themselves in. Which brings us to our second game design lesson from Candyland. Keep rules and gameplay simple. Kids of all ages can play Candyland because no reading is required. It's all visual. And kids respond well to the visual colors of Candyland, and they don't feel any pressure that they have to read or have to count. As long as they know their colors, they can play the game. When you are designing a learning game for adults, work to keep instructions as straightforward and simple and visual as you possibly can. Adults are just big kids and they don't like a lot of complicated reading. So just the way Eleanor Abbott did, you want to do it like her. Now, you might not be able to get as simple as Eleanor did with Candyland, but that's a good goal even if you fall a little short. This is especially important because with many corporate or educational serious learning games, they're designed to teach some complex topics like running a business or closing a sale. The game itself tends to be complicated. The game rules that are developed often lean toward complexity with many actions and moves that might need to be taken each turn. So you as a game designer need to work hard to resist this natural inclination to overly complicate your game. So here's something that might help you keep complexity in check. Attempt to conceptualize or reconceptualize if you already have your game. Try to reconceptualize it with no text. Can players navigate the game without complex instructions or actions? Can you eliminate even one or two complicated elements? Can you design your rule book with only icons or only images? Now, it won't be easy and may ultimately not even be possible, but your attempt at extreme simplicity and minimal text can make your game easier and simpler to play. Simplicity helps with adoption and acceptance by the players. But simple gameplay and instructions are not the only game design lesson we can learn from Eleanor Abbott's Candyland. She purposely made the board game itself, the play space, meandering and flowing. This was a direct and purposeful design against the restrictions and immobility imposed by being in a polio ward. Gameplay revolves around movement and mobility. The entire game simulates a playful walk in a meadow filled with candy. A sharp contrast to the rigor and step-by-step instructions and daytime routines that they had with their physical therapy, and the lockstep impact polio had on children's bodies. Movement within the game is effortless and fluid. Each turn allows for unencumbered freedom on the board. Players race against each other, landing on spaces which are one of 6 colors or marked by a special candy symbol. The players draw from a deck of cards corresponding to the board's colors and symbols and then move their token to the next space that matches that drawn color. Players can even teleport to a space matching the symbol on the card that they just drew. The first person to reach the end of this meandering trail is the winner. The game is colorful and bright in contrast to the white, sterile, cold environment of the hospital polio ward, which brings us to our next design tip. When creating a learning game, carefully consider how the aesthetics of your game, whether it's a board game or a card game or a video game or a mobile game, how those aesthetics impact the feelings of those who are going to be playing your game. Candyland was designed to create a feeling of happiness and cheer within the players. The aesthetics of bright colors and candies evoke feelings of joy and of fun, engagement. Aesthetics are how a game is stylized, how it presents to the players. It's the artwork, the colors, the characters, the tone, even how the game provides instructions to the players. Aesthetics evoke emotional responses from the players. The design decisions you make around aesthetics instantly set the mood for the game that you are designing. While you might think that for a serious learning game you don't want to evoke emotions, emotions, which are in the affective domain, are an important and often overlooked element in the design of learning. The affective domain centers around learning how to deal with things emotionally. How do you deal with emotion? That's the affective domain. Feelings, values, appreciation, motivation, attitudes. Now, organizations continually try to influence values and attitudes, such as valuing good customer service or trying to create a positive attitude or within the employees, or trying to make employees more conscious of quality and safety, or motivating employees to be engaged or do their best work. Organizations are constantly trying to reinforce or teach elements in the affective domain. It's something that happens all the time, although we may not think about it. So you might want to draw inspiration from Abbott's careful application of design elements. She wanted to create a mood, a feeling with the design of Candyland, from the shape of the game path, to the colors, to the elimination of the need for complex rules or even written instructions. Every element of Abbott's design was in direct contrast to the restrictions and feeling evoked by the polio pandemic. This brings us to another lesson. Know the mood you're trying to create within your game. If it's a game about negotiating a hard sale, maybe the game board needs to be a little bit foreboding. If the game is about tough decisions with no clear right answer, maybe the game needs to have a muted color scheme. Maybe your game is designed to highlight the need for talking to multiple people within an office, so you need to have multiple places and lots of characters to show the need to navigate many personalities so that the players can ultimately win the sale. So now let's take a moment and think about Abbott's design decisions as an example. So in Candyland, the game focuses on effortless movement, as we discussed, while those struck with polio moved with great effort and pain. And even those not stricken with polio were inside. They had no freedom of movement. They didn't want to catch the virus. So in a time of restricted movement, Candyland allowed freedom. That was the feeling or mood that Eleanor Abbott was trying to achieve. And also, in the time of hospitals, which were sterile and white, again, as we mentioned before, with no pops of color, she designed a game that was all about color, right? An escape from the sterile white environment of the hospital. In a time when children felt scared and isolated, she created a game that brought people together and allowed them to share a sense of enjoyment and engagement and being together socially, which wasn't always done because of the virus, because of the pandemic. In a time of rigid rules and restrictions, she created a meandering path which was whimsical, and you could get candy, and candy determined where you teleported and how you moved. It was about flow and as few rules as possible. So those are some really good lessons that can be learned from Candyland. So go out and buy the game, play the game. But before we do, let's do a quick recap. So 1, design with purpose. Abbott's design considerations were purposeful reactions to the current situation. Next, keep gameplay and rules simple. Now, I admit, this is much easier said than done with a learning game, but it's definitely a worthy goal. Now, also consider how aesthetics in your game, from rules to the game board, to the cards, to the video impact, create the mood for your player. Carefully consider aesthetics and carefully create the mood that you're trying to accomplish. And when you create the right mood, you always need to think about the feelings and emotions that you're striving to evoke within the games that you create. So there you have it, lessons learned from Candyland, what we here at the Unauthorized Unofficial call a learning game. So I encourage you to use these lessons in your own design of learning games. And remember to always play, learn, and have fun.